Check his FAMs first. Need to see if they're cracked. No, his FAMs are not on here. It's purely equip. Purely equip stuff.
I don't have any FAMs worth going over anyways.
Alright, well give us a little short introduction about like your character and where it's at and where you're trying to go, and then we can go from there.
Like my character right now is 262, and yeah, right now I'm just trying to get my arcanes and stuff. And let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What class is it?
Oh, it's a Shadower.
Okay. And what's like the hardest bosses that you're soloing, and what's the hardest bosses that you're doing in a party?
Hardest boss that I'm soloing right now is just normal Lomian, and the hardest I've cleared is Hard Lucid.
Okay. All right.
In party, of course.
Yeah, in party, yeah. So nothing C10A or in that area yet?
Nope.
No slime, sea slime?
I think I could attempt it in a party, but I haven't done yet.
Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, it's good to have the foundation of the drop and the Meso gear done first. Did you make any upgrades like recently in the 5, 10, 15?
Only my CRA, I got them to 17 stars, that's it.
That's it, okay. And then you keep some other stuff at 16 just to get the budget gains first?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to save up right now for the shiny Starforce.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Alright, so you got mostly, let's see here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so you got 1 each with 1 line. You've got the, okay, 5 Meso and 4 drop, okay. That's good, solid, and all of it has a little bit of luck as well, I think, right? Or even a lot of it.
Yeah, some were lucky and some were unlucky, like, what is it? Yeah, the pink bean mark is like only 9% luck, so...
Yeah, it's still good, as long as it's 1 line, you know, it takes a little bit of pressure off of the Starforce being necessary immediately. And, of course, for you on the Shadower, it's a bit more important because you need your little explosions to be able to kill, right? So if you have a little bit of luck on everything, it takes a little bit of pressure off there. So that's good. Yeah. Even like, I mean, you say just 9, but that's 9 is like gold standard, I think, because anything more is usually pretty expensive, and you hit some 12s. You would just want to kind of put it all on one pile, right? So if you get like 9 per item, and it's 9 items, so you get around 81%, like that's good. But you're way over that, so nothing to worry there. You want to make sure that all of them have like a little bit of a flame at least. Usually it's all flame advantage items, right? So they can all get some decent stuff, or their event rings, and then their base stats are already quite a bit higher. But yeah, they all have, I would say, like above average flames as well. So for dropping Meso gear in that situation, that's pretty good. So when you wear this, you can just regularly train in Cernium and keep clearing the monsters?
Like with the Meso explosion, like I could not one-shot, but since I'm training in, what's the mod called? Royal Library Section 5, it's like, it's not the greatest race. I can get like 12, 13k an hour. It's not that bad, but also not great.
Okay, so you could still scale up if you get like more damage. And do you know like how close are you to killing the mobs? Like, do you use G-skills alteration as well when you're training?
No, I can just one-shot them with my mobbing skill with Cruel Stab. So with Meso Explosion, I think it's like way off. I couldn't even like two-shot them with my summons.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's normal in the beginning, right? I mean, the new Mastery Core is coming out, so that will boost your Meso Explosions. So that should help get you to that killing speed quickly. And I'm assuming you're not at the point yet where you can do bonus damage to the Sacred either, right?
I think like I have now 50 Sacred Power. So...
Okay. And how much does the map need? Is it a 50 as well?
30.
Oh, 30. Okay. That's alright. So some bonus damage, but not full yet, but that's some bonus damage. That's good. Okay. Yeah, so you're working on stuff to 17. I think, yeah, at first glance, I mean, it's good that your drop rate Meso Gear is really good, so that's a really good start. The next step in drop in Meso Gear is getting like a full set that's all drop rate. So going towards like 180, or if you get lucky 200, right? If you get something with double lines, so that when you open up boxes or do low-level bosses, you can get way more drop rate chance for, let's say, kind of treasure rings, maybe Oz rings, right, from boxes from harder bosses, superior drops, that kind of thing. And then, of course, you know, if you're training and you don't really need the money, if you get more money from your income from your bossing mules, then you could also decide to train with more drop rate instead to get more fragments. And you'll sacrifice a little bit of Meso, but for fragments instead for progress. At least you'll have the option there to do what you want to do. I'm not saying that's what you need to do right now for like drop rate gear, but in terms of drop rate gear, that's like the next step. So usually that starts happening when you move some of the items that you have right now for damage, or when you have like more specific damage accessories, right? Because these are the ones you're using for both now, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also have I have one event ring I made a damage ring out of, and
Okay.
I have another black bean mark that has like 666, like 6 offsets, 6 luck, and 6 luck.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Yeah, well, what can happen is that some pieces get replaced with even stronger damage pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then those pieces becoming available will then usually be re-rolled for drop or Meso, depending on what you still need for the set, until you have like a complete set of usually, so like 5 with Meso, and then 9 with drops, so like 14 total accessories, and then 9 of which have drop rate and 5 of which have Meso. Ideally, enrolling all of the Mesos, all of the drop again, and rolling for some stat somewhere, something gets like double lines, the hybrid lines, and then you just want to build around that existing to make sure that your whole sets, you know, don't need extra lines. Because the one thing you want to think about as well is if you want to replace one of your pendants with a spirit pendant for extra EXP when you're training, you want to try to maintain as close as possible to the Meso and the drop rate that you know, as high as the highest percentages as possible, right? Up to 100% of Meso and up to 200% in drop, so that you don't have to lose too much in favor of the EXP that you're gaining. Of course, for you, you know, going into Spirit Pendant, you also lose quite a bit of damage, and then you have to make sure that you maintain your kill speed with your Meso Explosion. Otherwise, it's not really a benefit to go for more EXP. You actually lose more EXP than you gain by, you know, lowering your own damage. So it's something to think about, but for Shadower, it's a little bit different situation than for a lot of other classes, because you have to maintain your kill speed. But it's something you can check. You know, you can do like a 10-minute test or something, or, you know, even 2 rotations and see if the monsters are actually dying. If they're not, then it's probably not a good switch, right? But if you have damage surplus. So this is what might happen for a while, is if you're moving to a next area that you technically have access to a next area and you could kind of go kill there, but because the monsters are just kind of too strong immediately, it might be better to stay one area down and be able to train in drop rate gear and be able to kill around the same monsters and get more fragments, more money, basically. Maybe a little bit less EXP, but around the same amount. And then when you unlock the area after that, you go just one area up instead of 2, right? So that you can maintain your kill speed until, you know, the time in between areas becomes so long that by the time you unlock it, you can also start killing there. But that will mostly likely have to do with like whether you're already switching into like pitch drops and stuff. So that's more like in the 275 plus in the 280 areas that you'll start considering that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm still way too far for pitched.
Mm-hmm.
Because like my combat power right now is almost 15 million, so it's not that great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there'll be some. Yeah, combat power is not like linear, so there'll be some things that when you just hit them, suddenly you gain a whole lot. You know, boss damage is way big in there. So like once some set bonuses or some potentials hit certain numbers, like if you have purely like attack lines, you have like one boss damage line, but let's say that you hit some combination with like more boss damage on it, yeah, suddenly it'll go like way up, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that now you're twice as strong. So it's an indicator for sure, but it's not like a linear number where it's like, oh, double the combat power means double the damage or something. It's yeah, it's a bit misleading. I think it can definitely be used, but you just need to look at more metrics than just that one to know how strong you are and how much you're progressing in the game, sadly.
Yeah. Like, well, I think I had a point. I had, what was it? 2 boss lines on my weapon, and then the combat power was way higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like crazy.
Yeah, and arguably, I mean, if you have like 2 lines on the secondary and 2 lines on the emblem, and then 2 lines of boss on the weapon, it's probably not the worst combination. Kind of like how you look at drop-in Meso gear and like the stat on it, and you look at that and you put it in one pile. And kind of a similar way, you want to put the potential of the WSE like all in one pile as well, and try to find a balance there that works for your character, right?
Yeah.
Do you know your like in your stat window, like your IED and where that's at? Have you ever checked that with like the progression grid?
When I had the, I think when I had the potential of like, I had 45 IED on my weapon before. I was around 96, but now it should be, I think, 94, something like that.
And you got some other sources to like accompany that? Because, well, one of the things, like figuring out like what the best potential is for like your weapon, secondary, and emblem, that has to do a lot with like what stage of the game your account is in, right? Because the further you build your legion and your links, there's a lot of IED and boss damage and stuff like that coming from that. And once you get that very high, basically all that's left for your WSE is just to roll as much attack or magic attack as possible. Few classes have a few exceptions there. Early on, it's really good to roll IED and boss damage and attack, just a little bit of anything basically, because your legion is not going to be as big, so they're all going to be as equal, maybe IED even like the most valuable early on, except for, you know, some classes already have a lot of IED to start with.
Yeah.
And then as you build up the legion and the links and everything, then you'll get much more IED passively from that. And then, you know, if you have 15% IED familiars and all that, and your hyper stats and all that IED starts coming up, especially once you hit the superior Golic set, that's basically when all classes except for Kana, I think, can all roll out of IED, and then essentially it's just a combination of damage and boss damage that works. So when you have 2 lines on everything, one even being a double prime on the emblem, unfortunate for the magic attack line, of course, is super typical, yeah. But yeah, I mean, in the strength on the shield, I mean, even that's like secondary stat, a little bit of attack on the 3rd line of, it's all little bits that help. So WSE, I think the potential is fine. You still have the little bit of things, of course, to finish just to get the 17 star, but that's like 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, yeah, like 5 items. Yeah, and the other Black Bee mark is also 17, or is that one?
Oh, it's 16.
16. Okay. Yeah, so it's like 6 items, 1 star. So that's not really the big expenses. So the next step, I would say comparably. I mean, this is kind of like a matter of taste, but I would say for your potentials. Oh, you got lucky on the shoulder. I see. Very nice.
Yeah.
That some of your potential is already quite high in terms of the tier. So usually I look for potentials on like the CRA and stuff like that when it's like up to, and Arcanus as well, when it's up to 17 stars. Usually my potentials are going to be like 9 to 12% potential, so either in epic or unique basically, and never buying that last upgrade to legendary, but more saving that money and holding that for Starforcing. And I'll probably only go to legendary for CRA when it's like 21 stars. So because until that point, the money spent in Starforce, again, provided that you have the backups, is going to be way more efficient than the money in potentials. The way you want to look at it is, if you're going from 9 to 18% luck, you're doubling the amount, right? But 9 luck, if you convert that back to like a flame score, that's probably worth like, because it's specific luck, so it's probably like 9 each or something, so that's like an 80 flame score value or something. But it ends up becoming quite inefficient per percentage really quickly. Like once you pass like 15, like you basically have to go to legendary, but then you have to pay like a premium of 500 mil to even get into, or well, like closer to a bill a lot of times, right, to get into legendary. And then you have to pay for the cubes again, and then you have to buy more expensive cubes. And then CRA as well has a lot of junk lands, you probably noticed when you're cubing it. A lot of bad outcomes, right, where you just roll absolutely nothing, or like chance to be immune to damage, or you know, stuff, decent
bullshit.
hyper body on the on the pants, right? Or like decent mystic door on the hat, like all completely useless. And that can lead to just spending more per gain there than on the Starforce. And the beautiful thing about CRA is that not only is that the case, but also you can start getting backups for CRA very early. So it's like a perfect position for CRA to be way harder in Starforce than in Potential early, just because Starforce comparatively better and safer, and cubing comparatively worse, less efficient. But it's already legendary now, but maybe you can think about that for next characters, right? Yeah. I think, it's like a little unlucky, because your hat has like the best potential now, but I'm pretty sure for the hat you eventually want the cooldown reduction.
Cooldown.
Yeah. Because for Trick Blade, I think, right?
Yeah, Trick Blade, and what's it, the other thing? Yeah, but mainly Trick Blade.
Yeah. Do you know the exact like meta of what people aim for? Because sometimes there's like a sweet spot for 2 or 3 seconds. Some people just want as much as possible. I thought, yeah, Trick Blade, I'm not sure. I thought 2 or 3 seconds, and then any kind of luck you can get with it is like ideal. But I'm not sure. Might have to check. Are you in like the Shadower Discord? Yeah. They probably have specific mention for that. Because you have to know like the base cooldown of a skill, right? So if a skill that gives you a lot of damage and has like a 20-second cooldown, then it's like the more the better probably. But if a skill has like, you know, already down to like 11 seconds cooldown and you just want to make it use more, the difference between like 2 and 3 seconds is very low, because once you go under 10 seconds, you only get a percentage of the reduction. Only 10% of the reduction. So then going over the reduction that would take you under 10 is usually much more competitive with lines of stat. But this would be after, right? This would probably be after working on the Starforce. But the it's good to know that in the future that's like a much higher priority project, because it like enables you to play the character in a different way and play more safely, right? It's way more like a quality of life. It's almost like a skill upgrade rather than just a pure damage upgrade.
Yeah, because also it has like an iframe and stuff. So, yeah. Yeah,
it allows you to play, well, to take more risk without it actually being more risky, right? To really go in and have an escape button optional, have it available way more often. So, yeah. Is that the Korea thing? Oh, Shadow. Oh. Richard opened something. What is that? Trick Blade cooldown? Oh yeah, it's a 19. Yeah, so that might be the higher the better thing. Pulverize, Sonic Blow, and Shadow Walker. And Sonic Blow, I think when you if you can interrupt it early, right, and then you don't get the full cooldown.
Yeah, you get a cooldown back.
Yeah. And Shadow Walker, yeah, Shadow Walker is 171. It's such a annoying timer. Pulverize, cooldown. Wait, which one is Pulverize?
Pulverize, that's the one on your what's it called? Your Assassinate. Your Hex Assassinate like gives a Pulverize stacks.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let's see. Trick Blade, damage, percentage. Full rotation, damage, percentage. Extra Trick Blade, extra Pulverize. Special improvements. Oh, this is a whole breakdown, Jesus. Shadow Walker with Urda Bind with Resolute Strike plus Bind. What the? Damage difference. Is this taken into account like bonus potential? Is this 42% luck? Is that what it's taken into account? I think so, right?
I'm not sure.
I think that's the setup here. So the sweet spot here seems to be 3 seconds. Oh, but then it hurt a bind. Barely any extra damage. Yeah, for resist strikers, the more the better. Yeah, but some of these are just minus 6 seconds. It's kind of ridiculous to look at.
Minus 6 seconds, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's like really, these are the only ones that are like reasonable. This one maybe for endgame. But these are probably the only reasonable ones. So 2 seconds with some stat, or 3 seconds, and then if you hit 3 seconds, you're probably not going to hit any stat with it. Oh, it's Rex over. Yeah. Oh, here's reboot. Okay, so 30%, -2 and 20. 0 seconds and 39. Yeah, these are some crazy. So to be these two-ish. So you lose damage on Shadow Walker. I lose a little bit on Ribbon as well. Oh. So I think it is what I thought. I think you want one line. Does this have any BAs? Richard, read his IGN and just stay calm, okay? You could do this. Well, if I read these numbers correctly, it seems that if you can get to -4 seconds, that seems to be worth, quote unquote, but that's also 210 bill. And 3 seconds seems to be just worse than 30% stat, and you already have a 27. And the -2 seconds with 20% is what the... It's interesting though, because I thought it'd be a bigger difference, because it says here Trick Blade cooldown is at 19 seconds, so... I guess it's quite... you're paying quite a hefty price in your total damage just for getting a bit more Trick Blades in there. Yeah, so it looks like -2 with some stat is probably the play. That's what it looks like to me. In terms of like gains, utility, and budget. That seems like a doable one. I don't know if 2 seconds plus 2 lines stat is 7.7 bill. Hang on, let me double check that homework for you. That feels like that's cheap, but hat. So Chloe, huh. Okay. If you do 3 in one line, that's 60. Jeez. Okay. Yeah. And if you compare that to just like 27. Yeah, it's only twice the cost of what you have now. Okay. Yeah, that seems like a good thing to aim for. That's probably got to be, though, that's like roughly the same price category as... oh, and maybe, is it even cheaper? Oh no, it's probably more expensive with Bright. Yeah, it's more expensive with Bright. It's probably around the same category as for your glove, if you're trying to go for like double crit damage. with bright light. Yeah, so it's kind of ballpark, same thing. So you probably want to do those two things around the same time. But that's once you hit arcane, right? You don't have to do that for your current weapon. Current weapon is fine with a slide and crit damage. Yeah, that's totally okay. So that may be a project for then. So that's a project for later. So for now, it's mainly just making sure that you do dailies and weeklies, that you set yourself up to get whatever this list of you have of backups now, to make that list, that group, like 5 times the size with just everything that you could possibly use, essentially.
Yeah.
So honestly, like, keeping earrings could be fine. If you want to eventually just be able to get them to like 19 or something, right? So they can maintain some damage and you don't have to safeguard. If you have like a few of those, that's honestly not a bad idea. I like that. Yeah, belts, belt those up. Make sure you keep doing daily helix. Yeah, so you have already one superior belt. That's nice. Superior belts is like, the more you have, the more options you have of getting all the way up to the top, right? If you have one of them and you want to get to 21, I don't know if you care much about sitting at 20 or needing to go to 21 or needing to go to 22 eventually. I don't know if you have any feelings about those. Seems far away probably, but...
Yeah, like right now I just want to complete the 4 set.
Yeah.
Before I do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 belts though.
Yeah, you get 2 belts. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always one that drops twice and the other one that doesn't, right?
Yeah, on my Night Lord I got 2 superior earrings.
Mm-hmm.
and
then no belt.
No belt.
Yep. Trade, please. No, it won't let you. It won't let you. We have some reinforced earrings already, so that's good. So once the earring does drop, you immediately have some resources for that. So yeah, there's like 3 main things. Well, I guess 2 main things, right? One is just Starforcing the things that you're going to keep as the items, so you can go 1 star at a time, basically, and like evenly bring the items up, as long as you have roughly the same amount of backups of them, so then they'll be in the same risk area.
Yeah.
And the items that you're going to transfer hammer, those are more going to be like with big jumps, because every time you transfer hammer, you lose a star, and that extra cost, you're paying for that for the security of not booming your target item. But if you do that for every star, then it's way more expensive and it doesn't make sense, and also it overwrites your potential, so you'd have to redo your potential every time, right? Yeah. So with items that you're going to transfer hammer into, which is essentially for you just the superior, it's usually a good thing as well to not go super hard on your potential. So I also like keeping it unique and just get like 1.5 line on unique, so something like 9 to 12%, just so that whenever I transfer over, I don't have to lose the current potential. Now, you already have an extra belt, so this opens up the second possibility for you that you might not have to sit on 20 star for the belt, but once you get to the point, you could go straight for 21 on the second belt. And that way, if that doesn't go, you keep your current, well, 17 star it'll be by then, right? And then you don't have to redo the potential. If it does go, then you can move straight up to the 21, and you can just completely abandon your existing belt and just use that as a backup for much later if you ever go for 22. Seems weird, right, to leave like a 17 star belt with potential on it, but if you're looking at how much it costs to make like 21 star items and stuff like that, a 17 star with a legendary potential is like a fraction of that, and you kind of have to see that item as it's gotten its use, and right now it's more useful as just a backup for later, rather than to try to hold on to that invested potential from before. You know, even though it had that value before, it doesn't have that value in your entire account anymore once you're going that far into upgrading. It's kind of similar with CRA. Sometimes, so what's also easier for me, just to bring it back, because I'm going for like, you know, unique potential barely up to 21. If I'm thinking about going for 22, usually by that time I have a lot of backups, and what you can do is like open up all of the backup use items for CRA and just kind of see if they roll good flames, because you can get the equivalent of an eternal flame when you just open up the pieces. And if you have high level alchemy and you fuse them, you can also get flames that are very close in quality to eternal flame, which means that you could mathematically, you could end up with a flame on a clean item that has a higher value than a 21 star with an okay flame and with, you know, like unique 2-line potential, which seems weird. But then if you're going for 22, you might as well just start with a new item, because then you'll end up not having to spend all that money on the flame later on the 21, right? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So sometimes by, you know, not cutting corners, but like taking like the optimal route. It seems very contradictory, but sometimes you just let go completely of a project you've already started, even though it feels like I'm so close, I'm almost finished with this one. But another one will just get so far that it makes more sense to just completely switch sometimes. And that's just because, yeah, the relative value of items will change. If you have 5 bill to your name, then an item that's worth 1 bill is insanely valuable. But if you have a trillion value in your account, then an item that's worth 1 billion, like, I mean, if you dropped it, you wouldn't even notice it, right? It's just one millionth, right? So yeah, the relative value just goes way down. But yeah, it's basically just all Starforce from here. So backup wise, yeah, you've got some options, so it's good. So usually backup wise, it's like CRA and then like 1 star at a time, right? Up to 18, up to 19. And then from 19, you typically jump straight up to 21. Well, first to 20, of course, you have to get there, but 1 item at a time to 21, because 20 to 21 for efficiency is cheaper than 19 to 20, because it can't drop down once it hits 20, right? So if you throw that into the calculator, you see it's way cheaper to go from 20 to 21 than from 19 to 20, and the upgrade for the Starforce is also bigger. So usually for Starforcing, that's the next things, and then any kind of items you can get the same amount of backups for, roughly, for CRA will fit into that same category. And during the session, you basically just want to be flexible and see. You know, you might start with like 5 or 6 items, so other items that come to mind might be black beam marks, if you have a few of those, kind of treasurings, shields, for example, right? The demo shields if you craft more, and then CRA, usually those are kind of like in the same category. And, you know, as you go, and, you know, some might boom here or there, but CRA will probably always stay the most backups, right? It's just, yeah, the easiest to get a lot of. And then as other items, you know, maybe you get some booms and some things fall off. Now, because you lower in backups there, they might drop off as projects, but usually they can get up to 19 pretty, those items that I just mentioned, up to 19 very comfortably. And then that's very possibly going to be like the shining for you is trying to get like Black Beam Mark, Shield, CRA, and kind of treasuring, like all up to 19. That's probably already going to be a pretty successful event for you. That's a lot of damage gains, a lot of stat, a lot of weapon attack, and that also gives you time at that point to kind of look to reassess, like which dailies do I still need to do? Do I have enough backups? You know, do I still need to go for backups on that? And then the next jump is probably going to be CRA up to 21, and then you'll have to see in between. You'll probably bring your, you know, you'll have your 4-set superior. And the next step will be to make 21 fodder to make 20 star superior, or 21. So 21 typically for the belt and the earring, because you can get more drops, and then you can do what I talked about before with the belt, where you transfer into the new item and see if you can tap that one without having to risk your existing potential. For the ring and the pendant, that's harder because you'll have to buy the backups, which, you know, super pricey. So usually for those, it's either 21 into 20 or 22 into 21, but that's typically very risky at that time, because it would make more sense if you can get something to 22 to first use that item as a 22, right? Because every time you're transferring, you're losing that extra star, and the extra cost of that extra star is never worth the higher stat of the lower star of the item that you transfer into. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you would always go for like 22 CRA first to use, rather than 22 or 22 Arcana Treasuring and then use it as a 22 Arcana Treasuring before you make a 22 Arcana Treasuring and transfer it down into a 21 Superior, because then you still lose a little bit of damage. It's better to have a 22 Arcana Treasuring and a 20-star Superior than a 21-star Superior and a 21-star Arcana Treasuring, if that makes sense. It'll be cheaper, basically, to have the first one, and a little bit stronger.
Is it also okay, like, to get one of the kind of treasure rings to 17 stars for a damage ring instead of one of the the event rings for the Meso, to replace it for bossing with the Meso rings?
Yeah, but you're in a good situation now to go straight up for 19. in the next event. So to go together with the CRA up to 19, because you have multiple. Because when you make a 17, you essentially are just making something that's very close in damage. It's a little bit stronger already than event ring, but it's very close to an event ring. And then you might as well be like, well, why don't I have a damaged event ring? They're kind of too close. So what I try to avoid is like sideways upgrades where technically it's an upgrade, but the money you're paying per, converted flame score or per just damage increase unit is just too high. And then once you're committed into that item, into the potential again and into the stat, right? Then now you're gonna be locked in, and now you're gonna be very there's a higher risk now in case you get unlucky with backups with Con of Treasure. Now that potential is stuck in a trace. And then you kind of want to avoid that. So I like to get the little riskier Starforcing out of the way first and see if you can hit a 19. If you can hit 19, now you can start working on the potential. And now you don't have to worry about booming this item for a long time. A long time means lots of runs. Lots of runs means lots of backups. Lots of backups means lower risk, right?
Yeah.
So that next time you jump up to 21, you'll have like 5 or 6 or 7 kind of treasure rings. And then now it's just about having enough money and clicking enough. The chance at that point that it's not going to happen is so low. So basically every update, every event, you just want to minimize the risk of not making your upgrade. That's always the goal. And everyone has a different minimal number, right? For me, I'm pretty risk averse. But if I see 3, I see a 19. That's definitely true. But I don't see a 21. If I see 4 or 5, maybe I'll see a 21. If I see 6 or more, then I'll probably see a 22. That's kind of how I look at it. But some people see 3 and they see, there's a good chance for a 22. But as soon as one booms, well, now you're basically looking at an 18 or a 19, right? So, yeah. That's what I meant with that flexibility as well. You can always aim for them, but the problem is if you aim for a 22 when you have 3, there's a higher chance that you end up with a 17 than if you aim for a 19. You're pretty much guaranteed going to get a 19, and the next event you'll probably guaranteed see a 21, because it's perfectly viable that the first one just goes to 19 and doesn't boom. 19 is pretty doable, but even though it feels very risky right now. And then by the next event you might have 2 more backups, and now you have a 19 with 4 backups. There's a good chance that you see a 21. And there's incredibly high chance that you drop back down to 19 with only 1 backup, and then you can just wait there again, right? And then you tried, you boomed, you failed, it's fine, but at least you stayed where you're at. Because downgrading just psychologically just sucks, You want to avoid that from happening. Yeah.
One question about Starforcing CRA 20. Do you just take one piece and just go trying to get straight to 20, or do you roulette them getting 1 star, 1 star, 1 star?
So your budget would be dependent there, right? So like I said, if you're keeping the item after the trace and just transferring it over because you have a lot of backups, you're not transfer hammering, but you're just keeping the trace, then 1 star at a time makes more sense, because then you're getting those guaranteed gains. So I would get one to 18. If it booms, you just remake it. As soon as it hits 18, you go to the next one, get it to 18, get to the next one. And then basically that group will probably also include, if you have, Black Bee Mark, if you have Con of Treasure Ring, if you have the Shield, you'll try to get all of those, and you'll see them all as the same risk group, and then you get them all to 18. And then once they're all 18, you start back from the front, back to CRA, and try to get them all to 19. If you start running out of money, then you just stop. But then, so there's 2... Let's say that someone has enough money, mathematically, right, to get 3 CRA pieces to 21, and that's the only items they can do. And there's 2 people, right? Let's say one person gets unlucky, and they get their first item to 20, 5 times, but it always booms to 21, and they end up at 18 stars or something. So they gained 1 star, but they spent average the amount of money on getting 3 items to 21. A horrible event for them, right? Yep. Let's say the second person, because, same logic, you get at least 5 20 stars, right? Let's say that next person did it item per item, star per star, got all 3 of them to 20, right? Again, it's a little bit of a weird example because you wouldn't stop at 20, you would stop at 19 and then go to 21, but for the example's sake, I guess. And then the first one booms 2 more times, right, at 20, and doesn't see 20, and then goes back up to 18. Now, the person in the first situation has an 18, a 17, and a 17, and the person in the second situation has an 18, a 20, and a 20. But they spent the same money and it has the same luck. But who feels better about the event?
Well, the second one.
Yeah,
because the first one only had 1 star.
Exactly, and the second one gets 7 stars. But they had the exact same luck and the exact same odds, right? So this is why for these items, it's very important to spread your luck over your characters. Now, if you're looking at transfer hammering and everything, but that's why you just need more time to get more backups, because you want spare kind of treasure rings, not just to use as a kind of treasure ring, but to use as fodder. You want, you need a superior earring drop in the first place, right? To even use your reinforced. You probably want more belts just to make sure that you can try to hit for the 21. And you want to start saving, well, hopefully get Dominator pendants by then, right? To maybe help get your superior to rate up to 21. So there are situations where people just have to wait so long to get a superior drop that they might already have enough money, or they might already have like, I don't know, like 18 reinforced rings or something, reinforced earrings, and they just tap one to 22 and go straight into 21 into 21 superior without ever going for 17, and they kind of like skip that whole step. Usually that doesn't happen on your first character though, but that can happen on like a second or a third character. And that's why knowing for the future, like what are those steps going to be and which backups am I going to need, the sooner you start picking them up, the sooner you can start making those big jump upgrades, which will save you the money of basically having to do the flame and the potential at 17 star and getting it up to 17 star, but actually do the whole thing in like one go, and that saves you money. But that's usually facilitated by your character not needing the upgrade early, and that happens when you have more in-game knowledge and when you have more funding, right? So if you can fund your matrix more, if you have bigger legion, bigger link skills, your character is going to be stronger, and it's not going to be as reliant on every single step of the upgrade. And then seeing the potentiality for upgrade and seeing the risk in the upgrades is going to help you make sure that you don't need everything to hit. But if you get unlucky in a few things, you can compensate that by just getting lucky in a few other things.
Yeah. And I also have like one pep mark. Like, what do I do with that? Like, just keep it?
I saw that. Yeah. It's in a weird position. You are pretty early in the game, and you are not super invested in the black beam marks yet. You said you had a 16 with 18%.
Yeah, the 16 has 18% luck. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two options. You could say you just kind of like YOLO it to 21, see if it goes, or like maybe not this event, but like the next event. And then if it goes, you have a great piece that you don't need to do anything on. And if you ever see like a magic eye patch, you can 22 or nothing on that. But there's a good chance you see like 18, definitely 19, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then it just booms. And then what you would have to do instead is just get more black beam marks for a longer period of time, and then just sit on a black beam mark basically at 20 stars and keep that, and that'll be your damage piece until you switch it out with a eye patch. But then are you going to switch out for a 21 eye patch, or are you going to go full 22? That'll be the decision that you have to make at that point. The other option is to get this Papulatus mark to 16. Although, is it already Starforced?
Yeah, it has like 10 stars.
Okay. What you could do is get it to 16, do Commercy, get Sweetwater Dineros, transpose it onto a monocle, and then by keeping on doing Commercy, you can just keep getting monocles, and then basically you can just treat it the same way that you would CRA essentially, where you can just go like 1 star at a time, and you can get backups for it by keep on doing the voyages, because getting backups for actual Pap Mark is way harder, right? There is a chance, a reasonable chance, that you never see Pap Mark again on this character for like the next 3 years. But if you do Commercy regularly, you'll get backups like continuously. And that way you can way more realistically, way more guaranteed, lower risk, get yourself a 21 or even a 22 monocle that has the extra transpose value of the Papulatus mark, and that will definitely overpower a black bean mark. and then you also don't have to, risk going for high Black Bean mark, or, fuck around with doing normal Pink Bean all the time to try to maximize your odds to get those, and you're not going to be as invested in getting those. And then if you do get Black Bean marks, you can just make like a 19-star drop one or something to keep your damage up. So that I would probably do that, but a lot of people just hate Commercy as content, so I'm not saying that you have to do it for sure, but it is an option. I think that's definitely worth considering.
What does transposing do exactly? Like, I have no idea what it is.
So you pay 10 dineros per attempt, and it's kind of like Transfer Hammer, but you're taking the quality of the upgrade from the item and you're putting it onto a Sweetwater accessory. So there's only a few options there, really, or Sweetwater weapon, but there's really only like 4 options. Dual Blades do it with a Katara to transpose it into the Sweetwater Katara. Basically, just what it does is it also costs 1 star and brings it down, just kind of like Transfer Hammer. But the difference with transposing is that it takes the value of that star that it loses and it puts them on the target item. So it keeps kind of the same stats, but it goes down 1 star. So you're basically gaining 1 free star up the top. So if you keep Starforcing it and you get to 22, it's basically like a 22, but the 15 to 16 star is on their double, kind of.
Okay.
So it allows for it to just become stronger than it otherwise could be, and in terms of the eye accessories, the only thing that would beat it would be like a 22 Papulatus mark. But there's a huge risk in like never getting that again, and just never reaching it because it booms, right? So that's why, yeah.
Alright, so...
But transposing is like, I don't know, like 2% chance that it works, and it's 10 dineros every time. So it takes a while to do it, and it's a pretty expensive process. But then once you have it with the backups and everything, it's just a way safer way of getting yourself a really good endgame piece. Well, basically solid late game piece. Then the only thing that can really beat it is a eye patch, only if it gets up to 22 and if it starts getting like pitch set. So.
Wow.
Richard has a picture. Oh yeah, so you can see the purple number here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stats basically of the 15 to 16 star. So that's bonus on top of it, even though it still has like the regular stats.
Yeah.
So if you transpose it and you get it to 22, it'll look like it has 150 all stat and 100 weapon attack. And if you want to compare that to a eye patch at 22, that has so the flame is going to be the big determinant, right? So without the flame, the eye patch is 146 and 95. So this will be 5 attack and 4 stat higher than an eye patch, but then because the eye patch has flame advantage, the flame will take the eye patch over. But yeah, you already know you can be killing Damien for like 2 years without seeing an eye patch, and if you get one, it could just blow up 17 to 18, right? The reason like people hate this whole system is because it's tedious, it's really repetitive, but it works, right? You put a lot of time into it, but there's as close as you can to a guarantee at the end. Whereas with the other ones, there's just never a guarantee. It's all full RNG. It could just never work, or it could work first try. You just don't know. So I think there's already a lot in this game that doesn't have any kind of pity system, and it's all completely RNG. And if the game gives you an option of like an early pap mark where you can kind of take at least some RNG out of the equation and you can get some control over that, I would recommend doing it. But ultimately, yeah, it's your life. It's your dailies.
So,
yeah.
So would you recommend like trying to get a pep mark to 17 and then transpose it?
No, 16 is the best place to do it. You'd have to look at the maths and everything, but like every star on an item, the stats that you gain depends on the type of item and the level of the item. So the higher you go, the better the star is that doubles up into transposing, but the more stats you lose because you're star forcing a lower level item versus a higher level item. So it's like the best place to transpose is at 16, and then the second place to transpose, I believe, is at 22. And then in between, it's all a little bit less if you look at the total stats, essentially. But the best total stats is at 16. Yeah. Which is good, because it's like, during a Shining, it's completely risk-free on the Papulatus mark, right? So you can already prep it, get it right up to 16, and just let it sit there, basically, and work on Yeah, work on the dineros. So yeah, so technically you can also, so the Katara, this one, and you can also transpose Dominator. And so Dominator I also sometimes advise to transpose because it can be easy, quote unquote, to get one. Just like, you know, the Papulatus mark, if you look into it, you have one. But the odds of getting like a whole lot of them is pretty low. Plus you want to use your Dominators for fodder into High Starforce Superior. You don't want to bloom like 4 or 5, you know, Dominators to try to get yourself a 21 Dominator to use as a Dominator, and then not have something to transpose into your Superior until you hit like a 21 or 22 Daybreak from Versilla or Saren, and then have to transfer hammer your Dominator, right? So what you can do, which that is what most people end up having to do. An alternate path is your first Dominator to 16, transpose into a Sweetwater Pendant, and then basically the same thing as the Monocle, just, you know, you have backups through dineros, get a Sweetwater Pendant up to like 19 or 20, 21, right? And then extra Dominators that come at the meantime, those are fodder to transfer hammer into Big Superior, this so that you can hit that earlier. And then if you get a Daybreak, then you can use that to replace the Sweetwater, and then a Sweetwater can become a nice and strong drop rate Meso hybrid piece for training in the higher level areas. So you're left with like an extra pendant there, basically that way. And you're taking the risk off of needing the backups for the Dominators early on. Yeah, and then technically you can also transpose the Twilight Mark into the Tattoo, but that one doesn't make much sense because the Twilight Mark has a 2-set bonus with the Slime Ring with a 10%, you know, damage bonus, and with the flame advantage and everything. It just doesn't make much sense to do that with the Tattoo, because you're actually just losing damage on that, unless you only have one of the pieces and you wouldn't set bonus. But the Tattoo I like a lot by itself, because that's a good step in between the Condensed Power Crystal and the Twilight Mark, and it can help you have a stronger piece, you know, that can go past 15 stars, so that, you know, the bosses like Hard Lucid and Hard Will are easier to do with lower risk. And if you do get a Twilight Mark, you can kind of get riskier immediately in a Twilight Mark in the same way that I talked about the kind of treasure, right? Because if you go like, oh, I can go 17, and then you start working on the potential, well, what do you do now if you get another one? Do you like try to tap that one? Do you tap the other one on the side? Do you double spend on Starforcing? If it hits 19, like, do you like elevator them up, and then every time one fails, do you have to completely redo the potential on the other one? It's possible, but that's like an ideal situation. So what I like to have is a Tattoo and a Twilight Mark, and then bring them up, you know, over each other, and you both have them at Legendary. Whichever one, you know, survives the furthest gets damage. If they both live, the other one becomes drop. If the other one dies, you replace them with the next one that comes around, kind of thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so Sweetwater is often, yeah, because people hate it. I get it. But it is, especially if you're progressing a little bit more slowly and you're not like getting into like boss carries with people already have everything and they let you loot everything, you know, than what most people's situation is, then I think it's a really good system to help you bring up your account through the mid game, like into the late game. But yeah, if you already have those hookups and you're getting carried day 1 and everything, and you have prio loot, then it's really unnecessary, right? Because like by month 3, you'll have like 10 Twilight Marks or something. So who cares about all that other stuff? Yeah.
Oh, no, I wish.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's why some people will just completely write off the system and say it's unnecessary. But not everyone is in that situation, you know. It's like a golden, what is it, silver spoon type situation, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're in a good situation to take advantage of that, because you don't have any Dominators yet either. So, are you doing a normal arc daily?
Yeah, like I've done like 4 or 5 weeks now straight, and I have 0 Dominators.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
that's normal actually. Like as you get into that phase, right, for the second set of drop rate, and you go for full 9 drop rate, that's when that starts picking up, you know.
Yeah.
That
like
and
I was more lucky on the Pat Mark. I was on my first kill.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. I have one character that got it on first kill, but for most it took a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is pretty lucky. Yeah, and that opens up a possibility for you that not many other people have. What happens is most people get their Papulatus mark when they already have like a 19 or a 20 Black Bean mark, and then yeah, they kind of just YOLO it because then the whole transposing feels like kind of going 2 steps backward to go 1 step ahead. So they're like, fuck it, I'll just try to tap, and if it doesn't go, it's whatever. And if it does go, then I'll have an upgrade. But you're now in a situation where you can take the more guaranteed upgrade, and then you don't have to be as risky with the other stuff later. So more like 1 step backwards and then 2 step forwards, you know, it's like a...
Yeah. I mean, you also save some money there, you know.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and risk and like insecurity, you know, and you have a longer term plan, so that's like a whole equipment piece that you just don't have to really think about, and you can focus more on the other stuff and focus more on those dailies and weeklies, because ultimately, I mean, you have to try to fit everything into your schedule, right? So one thing that's just taken care of for the long term, I mean, you know it's just going to take a while, but you know exactly where you're going with that. That takes a lot of like pressure and having to think about it all the time off as well, which is also very valuable, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So is there like a piece of equipment that you're thinking of, like you're not sure where it's positioned or what the next step for it is?
Well, let me check. Yeah, like the one thing that's bothering me is like the Emblem, the 9% magic attack. Like,
yeah.
Like, sure. I feel like it's going to take a long time before I start rolling for something else with it.
Yeah. So there's two big things. Well, 3 possible big things. One is people who get like a second emblem somehow. They can just freely roll on the second one to see if they roll something that's just even a little bit better, and then just replace it. That's something that could happen, so you can keep an eye out for that. The second thing is, usually for most people, you'll roll like 21 attack and IED is kind of like the best roll, or like 21 attack and a line of damage, something like that. Or like you have 24 attack and then maybe something on a 3rd line, but maybe not. That's about as close as you get to 3 lines without, you know, paying full WAP. I think it's like 42 bill to get 3-line attack on average, but you know, it could go quite a bit higher. Like within a standard deviation, you're already close to double, so you'd be like 75 bill or something, which is like big money, right? Spending that money on your whole account instead will probably net you like way bigger gains. So what some people do is they might try to like use bright cubes because they don't want to use the existing potential, but then because you're overpaying per roll, you're actually increasing the chances of not hitting the upgrade you're looking for within the same amount of money. So that's, I would advise against that. Plus there's a question of like how quickly do you get to Saren, and how quickly do you get to potentially getting the Saren emblem. And I think for a lot of people, for most like normal progressing people, once you have like really the money and it makes sense to start dedicating the money towards the emblem for the 3-line upgrade, that's around the same time where you're already doing Saren, and you could be technically getting an emblem any week, and then you want to dedicate the money to that instead. So shy from the first option where you have 2 emblems, you could just roll one on the side. Yeah, or you're a class that has that has like multiple emblems that they can buy, right? Because I think Xenon and the Novas and I think Zeros, I think, can have multiple emblems. So yeah, they can force that. But for all the other classes, shy from actually getting like a box with an extra emblem, I think you're in a position where that guy is just stuck there. And what you mainly want to focus on and seeing if you get like 2-line attack and a line of boss on a secondary or something like that, and potentially better something better on the weapon. But what's more likely is that you're just gonna focus like directly on arcane and just go really hard on arcane weapon. Probably something like 2 boss 1 attack, or 2 attack 1 boss, something like that combination on the weapon. And again, then you look at the overall of your WSE, right? You put it all together. If you can get 2 attack and a boss on a secondary, 2 attack and a boss on a weapon, and 2 prime attack and nothing on the 3rd line on emblem, that's a really good set. Like, that's a really good combination. So yeah, in that sense, you're just kind of like bricked on this one. But most people in this situation have 21 attack on their emblem. So in that sense, you're still kind of ahead, I would say. But that does make it more risky to go for that next step, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think right now I want to spend more money, at least for potentials, on the Absol weapon, because you can get like an arcane weapon anytime soon now.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's more, it's definitely a lot more just potentials. because like, you know, CRA, shield, kind of treasure, that kind of stuff. But in general, rings as well, right? You want to see if you can get yourself a slime ring, maybe craft a Meister, but like you're still working on the superior set and arcane. So besides the big events and trying to walk up those potentials on those first items, the Starforce on those items, and just finishing up everything 17, you want to keep some money left so that when you hit one of those big item pieces, you can immediately invest in them and incorporate them into your set. Yeah. And then, but all the while you're doing that, you're doing your dailies and your weeklies, and you're going to end up with like piles of belts, earrings, rings, and hopefully some pendants. And then if you take some pressure off of those backups by doing Sweetwater stuff and getting and working on transposing, then by the time you get to like 21 CRA and you want to start making 21s to transfer hammer into superior, then you know the other transitions will be kind of done, and you don't have to keep that money available for that, but instead you're like big saving for events again. And then after that, it'll be fixing potentials again. So once you see like 21s and 20s and 17 arcanes, that's when you go back to potentials. And then usually weapons secondary and emblem is like the first thing to like settle for. Then accessories, try to hit like the 24s, 27%, kind of like that. But yeah, and then like 21/23 on everything else, like on arcanes 23s, and then 21s on all of the under 160 pieces, basically.
One more thing. When should I go like for hybrid lines and double meso on the accessories?
Yeah, so the next step of like making like full drop rate, that's probably after the next Starforcing. Once you see like some more 19s, then I would start working for accessories on like having a whole set of full drops, because then you'll see the speed up in getting those backups. The real thing of making the hybrids, like a whole hybrid set, like a 5 or like a 5/10 set, like the whole thing, with the caveat of maybe making a 5/10 set that incorporates a spirit pendant, right? That kind of depend on your budget at the time. That has to do a little bit with your class. So if your class needs the extra damage to be able to keep killing, which you might be in that group, right? Because of the Meso explosion.
Yeah.
Then some people will start making like stronger pieces, or when you start switching out of stronger pieces, right? That's why I like the Sweetwater gear, because you're left with like a 21 pendant, you're left with a 19 or 21 tattoo, you're left with maybe a 21 transpose or 22 monocle whenever you switch into pitched, and then you keep a really strong piece. So if you do get a pitched, you can switch into that and then have a piece that presents itself really quickly to become a nice and strong hybrid piece. If you want to make the hybrid pieces earlier, you just have access to weaker pieces, so they might not necessarily fill the gap of also giving you enough damage. So it might be after you get your arcanes to like 19, because 17 to 19 arcanes is a big jump in damage, and that might help you facilitate go into the higher level areas with the gear. So if you have the money, you want to invest the money, usually when you're going into like maybe Odium, but probably definitely into Shangri-La, that if you want to start training there, you'll just need that stronger juicy gear, right? And if you make that with the lower level gear, yeah, if you even consider like the boss accessory gear for that, there's going to be a lot of pressure on your arcane gear and on all of your potentials and all that. So that might make it harder to keep maintaining your kill speed, and then you'll, back like we talked about in the beginning, you might have to just go one area down instead, so you can just comfortably kill with your drop in Meso run. But again, the people who are pushing and want to be in the highest level and want to get the highest percentages, they're going to have to remake like completely new gear on the side, and then when you do finally hit pitched, then you have that older gear now is completely stuck, because now you have like, instead of 14 or whatever, 15 or so accessories that are legendary with like drop in Meso all over it, now you have like 25 of those pieces. Now you have like way too many, right? So it is a huge investment to do it that way. So I typically do it more organically and slowly, and I kind of wait until the pitch transition basically pushes some of the really strong pieces out of my equip out of my damage set, and then I turn those into hybrids to be able to maintain kill speed and get the full set of drop and meso. So that's like, you know, in the 275 to 280 region. But for my first character, for my arc, I did make the hybrids on boss accessory pieces and then remake them again when Pitch pushed them out. So I did do the double for the first character. So maybe it is pretty normal to do that for at least your first character, because you're just transitioning more slowly through the game, right? More organically. But for like a follow-up character, you can probably skip that a little bit. But I had the same thing with Arc, kind of not as much as you, but like with the spell bullets, right? I had them like fly around, and they had to finish characters off, and then once those were able to start one-shotting or two-shotting, because there's a lot of them flying around, that did help making sure that it didn't have as many like stragglers of monsters just like around the map. But again, that was during the time when we had totems as well, right? So we would train in different maps, and rotations were very different. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure that's still necessary, but there's probably some other shadowers that can like kind of help you out with like what level of total damage is kind of enough, you know, so that you don't know if you have to make like a completely new set, or if you can just kind of tweak the ones you have. That's why I said it. I like having like Will-o'-the-Wisps, for example, like backups, and Black Beam Mark backups, because if you can work those up to like 19 or 20, they basically take the pressure off of needing to make a whole new set, and they can kind of carry the whole things with them. But event rings are like okay, but you know, like if you can make like a spare 21 kind of treasure or something, right, that would be pretty good, because that's probably at that time you have like 8-9 of those just sitting around. You can make one of those pretty easily. But like a Mechanator pendant, Chaos Horntail pendant, like they only go up to 15, so there's no worth really Starforcing them past 10 where you have them. But using extra Dominators, you know. But if you get the Daybreak and then you have the 21 Sweetwater available, right? Boom, that's a very solid one. You have that one plus your Spirit pendant. Pendants are done, you know. So it's good to look at like the future as well. Yeah, look at that set on what is that set possibly going to look like, and which pieces could fall into that. Does that satisfy your answer? And yeah, does it satisfy you? It's not. Yeah, I can't say exactly like at this level you have to make this whole set, because let's say that you start getting lucky on like arcane boxes, and you know you have 17 arcanes, everything, and you have like 4 boxes or something, and there's an event. You might be able to just like tap everything to 19 with like very low risk, and then that extra damage will just take the requirement of like, because some people just blindly make like 22-star farming gear, but this is people who want to like immediately go to the next area, immediately maintain all kill speed, and be in like full drop and meso, not have to think about anything, right? So if you play the game that way, it's a kind of a different game that you're playing, honestly. But you could get to that point, but this will require a lot of more building up in the Legion, right? Making sure that your weekly income is just from Legion, probably, or from boss mules, like north of like 20 bill a week, and then do a lot of farming, probably like at least 4 hours of farming a day on top of that, to make sure that your whole income is probably north of like 40 a week or something.
I have only one boss mule, so
yeah, exactly. So this will require like your whole account to grow a lot more. Have you decided your burn?
I might burn the Shadower. It's just easy bossing.
Yeah, I mean, if you really like it, yeah, fuck it, dude. I mean, yeah, some people want to have like different experiences in the game, try to find another character that's similar but like different. But yeah, if you want to play the same one, dude, fuck it. I'm a big advocate of someone having just 12 boss mules that are all exactly the same class. You'd lose nothing really in Legion. You know, like the last, we have 6 more slots than classes, so you can already make 7 of the same class without any loss. And there's probably 5 classes that don't give you really anything in terms of your Legion member bonus. So if you make the same class again, fuck it. You want to have 12 Shadowers? Fucking play 12 Shadowers, dude. The problem though is that if Shadowers get nerfed, now all of your shit is nerfed. That's kind of the... Yeah, I mean, you're a little bit more vulnerable in that. But if you get buffed, then you get 12 buffs, so whatever, yeah, it's... goes both ways.
Like the Origin's getting gutted, but it's not that bad. At least, like most boss mules do well at level 220.
Yeah, 220 up to 230. Like they can very easily load a Damien stuff below. Yeah, I mean I was expecting a lot of the origins to get gutted. I didn't really address that much, but I was expecting a lot of them to, well, not gut it, but like to take a pretty big hit because the entirety of the 6th job is expanding, right? So they have to make sure that the new skills and the new masteries and all that also look cool without the overall damage of the characters power creeping too hard. So there are also always going to be adjustments on the existing skills when new stuff is added to the kit. That's kind of, I don't think that's avoidable.
But it's likely we're going to be stuck for a while with what we have now.
Yeah, for the like more endgame people, I don't know. I think for the more endgame people, it's probably okay because they probably have a 2nd or 3rd character that they had to completely neglect in the last 6 months, and they can finally bring that character up now as well to do more stuff on it. But yeah, for beginner people, they're nowhere near maxing out all that stuff anyway, so they'll need the time. And they did mention they're just gonna pile on some more, they're piling on another boss with all the drops in the world, so people are gonna be stuck on that guy forever anyway. And a new ring, 3 new eternal pieces, next 6 months is ready there, basically. And then for the newer people, they have more content that they can work on, and less of a feeling like they're getting behind infinitely, to the people who are at that point. So I think overall it's not a bad balance of content addition. Yeah.
I mean, at least we can work on Soul Janus for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. You said that new symbol as well.
Oh yeah, it gives what was it?
I think a drop rate,
and Meso.
And Meso, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, yeah, 50 when maxed, so I don't know if it's like 10 a day, then that's gonna take forever as well. But
yeah,
we'll probably need like different selectors for that as well. So they'll have to start like slowly rolling those out. Probably none of those in the beginning until a few months, and then slowly give like 5 or 10 here and there. And then your symbol exchange coupons are gonna, in like 10 years, you come back and they have like 12 different symbols in an exchange coupon with all like these different exchange rates on it. It's gonna be wild.
I mean, 290 still so far, so nowhere spawned that yet.
No, exactly. Yeah, 295 and 300 areas. That's gonna take a long time to get those symbols as well.
Yeah.
That's crazy though. Okay. Any other questions came to mind?
Not at this point. So most of the things are answered now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if anything else pops up, I mean, you know where I stream, so
yeah, of course.
Drop it in the chat. I'll see you around there.
Yep.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right. Bye bye.
Have a nice stream.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okie dokie. All right. So shorter and specifically equip progression session here. Of course, we still talk a little bit about like where the account is at, what you're trying to do, and a little bit about the stats on a character, because it is important that you are using your equipment as a, as like the frosting on top of the cake that is the kit of your character, right? You want to complement the two of them, make sure that the whole makes a functional being. So honestly, very well set up, like it's got the whole drop and the whole Meso. Probably a little bit further in potentials than I would do personally, but I mean, you have to wait for backups and for events anyway before you can start spending that money, so it's not the end of the world. But in general, I would spend a little bit. Like this is totally fine. Fairy Heart is probably okay, but I would have way more unique items myself personally. But again, if it's your very first character versus if it's your 6th or your 7th character, again, you can cut some corners. Or find a more efficient path if you want to say it more nicely. But yeah, starting to build up the nice backups. I think Sweetwater has a really good value for his account for this character. Again, it's not for everyone. It can be pretty annoying. I get all that. But yeah, making it so that you're not just sitting there endlessly, like entering pitch waiting room at like level 265 because you probably won't even be out of it by 285. Just getting used to the Sweetwater pieces, high Starforce pieces, and like I said, extra backup pieces for hybrid, for higher area training later as well. They will be with your account for like the whole time if you set them up properly, and they will take a lot of pressure off of your RNG things that need to hit otherwise. So I would definitely in this situation definitely recommend it. Again, it's not for everyone, but I would hear. So if you enjoyed the session and picked some stuff up, I'm glad. If you want to see another one, click on something on the screen. Should be a playlist there. And you can be live for these in the chat. You see there on the left side. You can get flipped off by the emotes there over at twitch.tv/Scardor. You can also use all the commands there with the information. I guess I'll put this in a command. Is this, Richard, was this available through the Shadower Discord? I already have links to all the class Discords as well. If you are playing a certain class and you want more specific in-depth information from that class, you can always check !class Discord to take you to a room in my Discord where I have links for all of the existing Discords, and you can join them from there. Oh, it's in there. Okay. That way, you know, there's a bunch of discussion that are very class specific that are going on. People have infinitely more knowledge specifically in some class situations that I ever will. It's impossible for me to keep up with like 50 classes worth of, you know, internal discussions and all that. That's just wild. So I defer to them for a lot of the knowledge. They're typically very good at keeping up with upcoming changes and, you know, builds and rotations of skills and all that. So definitely check that out if you're trying to get the most out of your class when you're playing the game. But yeah, a good set of backups here and everything. If you want one of these sessions, check the description of the video. Just 3 ways of getting one. You can either just donate cash, and then you can just buy my time, and we'll talk about whatever. You want to talk about boss mechanics, you don't want to talk about gear progression, you want to talk about the general state of the game, whatever. My time is yours. You can also just buy them with channel points just by watching the stream if you're a subscriber over at Twitch. Or you can wait once a month. I will post on YouTube a message for all the people who want to potentially win, just to reply with their Discord name, and I'll draw out 2 winners. I'll be doing that soon, so keep an eye out for that community post if you want a chance of being one of the 2 people who win one of these sessions for free every month. Okie dokie, with that said, I'll thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one, or live at stream, twitch.tv/Scardor.